everybody, it's Teresa Mealy here. We are going to get started here in just a few minutes. I am with Kyler Brown, who is an account rep for Bloem, who makes some of our CBD products we sell. So I'm just going to give you guys a chance to come on board and online, and whoever's going to watch it live can watch it. If you're on my page, like it please for me, just so you can get updates and see videos like this as they come on. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day.
Make sure to like Bloem on Facebook, Bloem.
There you go.
Shayna's on.
Okay.
So just give it a minute.
Can you refer to this there?
Yeah. There we go. Perfect.
Got a thumbs up.
Okay.
So it must look and sound okay.
So Shayna, you can hear us and see us and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe she's just pretending she's watching.
Okay, well let's go ahead and get started. So again, I'm Teresa Mealy, family nurse practitioner. We specialize in our office in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, some aspects of functional medicine, weight loss, just lifestyle medicine, trying to get you back to your vitality, zestful life. So we are with Kyler Brown. He's a product rep for the Bloem. It's a CBD company, and we are going to be talking about basics of CBD. We have lots of patients that ask us questions, and I think there are some misconceptions and some fear about or around using CBD. So we just wanted to give you some education on it. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk first about the history of hemp. Can you just let people know what CBD is, where it comes from, how it's made, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So hemp has a very interesting history. Hemp is probably the oldest agricultural commodity. There is evidence of it being used up to 10 to 15,000 years ago, and a lot of people even think that the cultivation of hemp actually led to human society as we know it today. So CBD is a cannabinoid, or an active compound that is extracted from the cannabis plant, which that can either be medical cannabis or hemp. Now, Hemp Cbd is what most people refer to as CBD oil. Hemp CBD was legalized in 2014 as part of the Hemp Appropriations Act, which was part of the Farm Bill. And what that allows is for states to launch their own industrial hemp research program or pilot program to cultivate hemp and extract any cannabinoids, CBD, as long as the THC content is below 0.3%. So hemp CBD can be shipped to all 50 states. There's about 4 states though where it cannot be on retail shelves due to them not having a hemp program.
Interesting. Okay. And tell us a little bit about Henry Ford.
So Henry Ford, as many know, was the original CEO of Ford Automotives. Mm-hmm. And the reason why hemp has been illegal for the last 100 years, hemp was actually made illegal before medical cannabis was. The reason for that was in the early 1900s, Henry Ford had made an automobile that was made out of industrial hemp that could also run on hemp fuel. And DuPont Motors saw that as a direct threat to their bottom line at the time, and they lobbied against it and made hemp illegal, was added to the Controlled Substances Act. And about 10 to 20 years later, after that, was actually when medical marijuana was made illegal.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So I told you my son did a report on Henry Ford.
Yes.
And he mentioned that because he thinks it's pretty cool because we all use CBD oil, but they tried to destruct or destroy the car, but the only thing that broke was the hammer or the bat that they used to try to destroy it.
Yes.
So hemp is very strong.
Hemp is very strong, and it can be used in over 50,000 different applications in today's society. Anything from textiles. Many people don't know that our Constitution was actually made out of hemp paper. Mm-hmm. It can be used for so many different industrial uses today, medicine, fuel. Anything that plastic can do, hemp can do 10 times better, and without any of the toxic effects to our environment.
It's very interesting. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about Charlotte's Web.
Yes.
And not the children's story. I know that's fun too. But I feel like this would really give some people an idea of of CBD and
Yes.
kind of where it really became more mainstream maybe.
Yes, absolutely. So Charlotte's Web is a really great story about how CBD really came to the mainstream and why it's one of the main reasons it's legal today. There was a 4-year-old girl named Charlotte Fiji. Her family lived in West Virginia, and she had Dravet syndrome. So she was having about 400 to 500 seizures a month. And her family had her on a number of different pharmaceutical medications. Her condition was just not getting any better. She almost lost her life a number of times. So her family had heard of different cannabis oils helping to relieve seizures. So they decided to uproot, move out to Colorado, where of course medical cannabis was legal. And there was a family of growers who was growing a strain of medical cannabis that was actually nicknamed Hippie's Failure, because you could partake in smoking it and not get the high from it. Which THC is the only cannabinoid found in the cannabis plant that has psychoactive properties. All of the other compounds are not psychoactive in any form. So the dad came across the family of growers, and when he found out that the THC content was so low that there was no psychoactive components of it, they decided to extract the oil from it and give it to Charlotte as medicine, and her 400 to 500 seizures actually reduced to 1 to 2 total in a month period. So there's many different videos on YouTube. I encourage all of our viewers to go to YouTube and type in Charlotte's Web cannabis, and it's just a very powerful story when you're able to see that type of an impact on a little girl who is going through a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort.
Right. As a parent, that makes you kind of,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
astonishing. And then as a provider, that you can help so many different people with so many different things,
Yes,
it's kind of breathtaking. So
absolutely.
I have told this story to you before, and some of my patients know that my son broke his arm about 4 weeks ago, and he was already on CBD oil. And so CBD oil is an anti-inflammatory and can help with pain. And so he was already on it, but once he broke his arm, my husband and I started to give him much more. And then somebody sent me an article before they even knew he broke his arm that CBD has been implicated in helping fractures heal in rats. Well, my son is clearly not a rat, but this is where studies start to progress from. So he incidentally had no pain and no swelling the whole entire time. He had to go to the OR and have his bone pushed back in, got out of the OR, never once complained of pain. We did not fill our hydrocodone script. I did not give him Motrin, nothing. And I'm expecting little beef sticks, with his cast.
Yeah.
there was nothing. He was so proud of himself. It was
Tough little
phenomenal.
guy.
It was phenomenal.
He's tough, not all the CBD.
Right. He might be a little tough, but let's talk about. Really quick, when you go back to the THC part and the CBD, what I tell people in the office is it's the ratio of THC to CBD that makes the difference. So if you have the right ratio, I always say this, you're not just some surfer dude sitting on the couch smoking a joint before you're gonna go surf.
Yes.
It's medicinal, it's healing, it's when you have the right ratio, the THC doesn't have all that psychoactive part, or like your company makes a tincture where it isolates CBD out
Correct.
only. So there is no high in especially the Bloem product.
Exactly.
Nothing.
So there's a difference, and what you're referring to is really more on the medical cannabis side. And a lot of the recreational cannabis markets, that is really most of the strains that are out there are bred for just extremely high THC, little to no CBD, and more in the what you get in the medical cannabis markets is more focus on developing strains for specific ailments based on those cannabinoid ratios. With hemp CBD, that's really the difference. You have two main different kinds of CBD products. You can have what's called a full spectrum hemp CBD product, where you are extracting from the plant all of the cannabinoids. There's 85 of them found in the hemp plant. You have natural waxes, lipids, terpenes, and all of those compounds together. There's a theory called the Entourage Effect, and that is just a belief that all of the compounds, the full plant, provides a greater therapeutic effect than any isolates, for example. The problem with a full spectrum is there is a low chance of failing a drug test, because there is, although it's minute, there is a small level of THC in that, again, less than 0.3%. And the taste, for some people it is not taste palatable, it tastes a bit earthy.
So for people who have concerns with either a drug test or the taste, CBD isolate is really, the best option.
Right, okay. And let's go back to the medical cannabis. Let's just get vocabulary out of the way. So CBD, medical cannabis, medical marijuana, what are some of the terms that people need to know maybe that are different? Or the difference between?
Well, it's an incredible plant, and it's all within the same plant family, but ultimately, so let's start from the top here. The plant is cannabis sativa. Derived from that, you have medical cannabis, and then you have industrial hemp. Medical cannabis can then be broken down into 3 different strains. You have cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, and cannabis ruderalis. And then industrial hemp, the main difference between industrial hemp and medical cannabis is the phenotypes or the physical properties that they naturally grow in. So industrial hemp, for example, is, it's a lot more, the fibers are much more durable, they are much more stronger than, say, medical cannabis. With industrial hemp, you can make any type of clothing that you can think of with hemp. Versus if you were going to try and do that with the fibers from medical cannabis, it would be more of a lingerie, for example. So medical cannabis and medical marijuana can be used interchangeably. I prefer to use medical cannabis just because the stigma that this plant has had over the years. They actually started referring to it as marijuana because after the Spanish-American War, we had an influx of Mexican immigrants that were coming into the country, and they brought what was called marijuana at the time to help with their anxiety.
Right.
And so that term has just been used as jargon or slang over the years, and ultimately, if you look at the therapeutic properties of the plant, we really need to lose the stigma that it's been associated with for all these years as being a gateway drug and all of these different things that people tend to associate it with.
The myths that are perpetuated.
Yes.
And then just on a side note, hemp, the crop of hemp, or however you would want to say it, is much more sustainable than, say, just forest and woods and can be replanted and
Yes,
grown.
absolutely. And in terms of just for paper use, we cut down so many trees nowadays, and it drives me crazy when hemp has been illegalized for the past 100 years, and it can help with so many different issues that we face as a society nowadays. A really interesting fact about hemp is it is a phytoremediator or a bioaccumulator. So what that means is any toxins in the soil, any pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, it will actually remediate the soil and it will bring those toxins up into the plant. So Chernobyl, the nuclear waste site, where they had the nuclear meltdown all these years ago, they found that hemp is actually the best way to remediate all that soil and pull all that radiation out of it.
Wow.
So it is also very, very important to know where your CBD is coming from, and make sure that when you're purchasing CBD from a company, that they are consistent with the lab testing analyses, that they have a full panel reading, so you can make sure that there is no toxins, anything that could be harmful in your body in that product, because ultimately once you have those toxins in your product and you extract it, the heavy metals especially have a higher boiling point than the CBD. So there's no way to get those kind of toxins out of the end product without denaturing the CBD itself, the medicine.
And that brings us to another point I was going to talk about too, is sometimes people will say in the office, well, I've tried CBD, or I got it from this place or that place, and so someone I talked to this morning, she got CBD, and it's 2 milligrams per drop or something. But so that to me is too low of a dose, and she probably overpaid for that small of a dose. But secondly, sometimes people order it on online or something, but you need a what's it called, the COA?
Certificate of analysis,
Yes,
or COA for
right.
short.
And so how do we know that places aren't forging those? Or, I mean, we need a reputable place that we're buying from.
Yes. And that is a concern because a lot of companies out there, they will literally just pull a COA from another company and, as you said, forge that and use it as their own. So it's really important, research the company if they are more profit driven than they are ultimately caring about the quality of the product that they're giving to the patient or the consumer. Just make sure you do research on any CBD company that you're going to be sourcing from.
Right, I agree. So let's talk about the endocannabinoid system.
Alrighty.
I think it's so interesting, and so when patients are in to see me, I think if we have this system, this receptor system in our body, we ought to feed it with what it needs.
Yep.
So I just think this is extremely interesting. So tell us when that came about, who discovered it, and what that means.
So the endocannabinoid system was discovered in the 60s by a professor out of Israel, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, and he sought to discover why cannabis and the compounds have the psychoactive effects on the body that they do. So he was the first to isolate THC as a compound, which ultimately led to the discovery of the endocannabinoid system in the body. And this is a system of receptors. We also have our own cannabinoids that our body naturally produces called endocannabinoids. And there are metabolic enzymes that help create these endocannabinoids as well as break them down in the body. And according to all of the research that is out there and all of the various things that cannabis compounds have shown to help with, this is our body system for creating and maintaining homeostasis. The endocannabinoid system, it communicates with all of our body systems. So if something is ailing us, something is going wrong, again, we naturally produce our own endocannabinoids, but phyto or plant cannabinoids, when introduced into the body, if there are certain parts of our body that are not in homeostasis, they help to create homeostasis within the body.
Right. I just think that's really interesting that we were all primed and ready for this, but it's been illegal for so long, but we've been evolving with this plant for 8,000 years, and you know.
What's really interesting is the Reagan administration in the 80s, during the Just Say No to Drugs campaign, they sought to seek, the cannabis is having harmful effects on the brain. I'm sure everyone remembers that video of the egg in the skillet. This is your brain on drugs. And so they poured all this money into this research to prove that cannabis was detrimental to our health, and ultimately found out that we have a system for maintaining optimal health that cannabis compounds help to interact with and stimulate directly.
Right.
So there's so much research out there on the internet. I encourage everyone, if you have a stigma with this plant or you think that this is a gateway drug, there are so many uses for it. We have so many chronic illnesses and chronic ailments and chronic health problems in our society, and we all believe that education is the best way to help overcome those stigmas and help people realize the true potential of what this plant can do.
Right. And especially, I think, older people like my age who was around in the 80s, and that was what you saw constantly, and it's propaganda that it's bad. Which leads me to the next point that I want to talk about, which was Tuesday Trivia on Tuesday. Does the U.S. own or hold a patent on CBD?
Yes, so the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
Right there. The FDA actually owns a patent on cannabinoids as having antioxidative properties as well as neuroprotective properties. So they are great for relieving ailments associated with, and it spells out specifically all of the different issues that it can help with, from Alzheimer's to Parkinson's to epilepsy. The list goes on. For anyone who does come into Teresa's office here, we have a whole guide for beginners to CBD therapy. And in here you can actually read the FDA's patent on cannabinoids. And it goes very in depth, from the legality to the history of hemp, what is CBD, what it helps with, the whole 9 yards. So this is a very informative guide for any questions that someone has. This should answer the majority of them.
Yeah. So then when I think back to this is your brain and this is your brain on drugs, but CBD is neuroprotective, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. It's, again, propaganda.
Yeah.
And that's education, again, just getting education out there in the community and being able to really help people see that this is healing. This has nothing but healing properties associated with it, especially CBD by itself. The World Health Organization actually just came out and said that even in high doses, there is no toxicity associated with CBD, and there's minimal side effects associated with it. What I would advise is, if you are on pharmaceutical medications of any kind, to definitely consult with your doctor before taking CBD to determine if it's right for you. There is a chance of interactions with certain pharmaceutical medications and taking over 40 milligrams of CBD,
right,
according to the research that's out there.
Right. So the main side effect if you have too much is sleepiness,
That's
Right.
really the main side effect, is it's gonna make you drowsy.
which is not so bad for a lot of my women in my practice
Absolutely.
who can't sleep anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Mhm. Okay, so why does CBD oil help with anxiety and pain and sleep and seizures and PTSD and
Well, again, that goes back to the endocannabinoid system, and whenever our body produces its own natural endocannabinoids. A lot of the research that is out there is mainly on two of them. We won't dive too far into them on this because we really want to just cover the basics with this. But those endocannabinoids are called anandamide and 2-AG. And anandamide is basically the body's own synthetic THC. Anandamide in Sanskrit actually translates to bliss, and anandamide is so pivotal in all of our daily activities, just from memory, appetite, if we're going to be happy or depressed, our blood sugar levels. It plays such a pivotal role in so many of our day-to-day activities. Runner's high, for example, if you're a track athlete and you're running, you get that natural high that's associated with that. And that is really from endocannabinoid levels in the body along with endorphins. So whenever we have, there's many different chemicals that are associated with that, of course, but anandamide is one of the pivotal ones.
okay.
Sorry, what was your
Yeah,
question?
no, that was it. Just why does it help with all of those things? And I think it goes back to that its job is to make homeostasis in the body, which is
Yes.
back to a normal functioning on everything, whether it's blood sugar, anxiety, sleep.
Pain. One example with pain, for example, is whenever we are experiencing pain, our body, again, produces its own anandamide. And whenever we do not have CBD in the body, our body burns up anandamide faster than it can synthesize it on its own. So whenever CBD is introduced into the body, it helps inhibit the enzyme that creates anandamide. So our body floods itself with anandamide, and that anandamide will rush to the point of where we're having pain at, and our body is not able to burn it up as quick as it normally would, so it really helps to dull that pain.
Right, yeah, as in the case of my son and his arm.
Exactly.
I mean, really, no pain. And then I know I've told this story many times in the office to you when we're doing CBD oil and talking about it, but my husband had a traumatic brain injury years ago and actually had a period of time for the last 7 years that he did not sleep. He would wake up every day between maybe 2 and 4 a.m. and then that just made him a bear to live with by noon because you're exhausted. And it's just not good for blood sugar and blood pressure and all these other things too. So he started with your company, your Bloem, in December. And the very same night he took it, he slept. And then 3 days later, and his pain was gone because he has a lot of pain, and that would also keep him up, pain from, being overseas and stuff. And then he said to me about 3 days later, "Is this placebo?" And I was like, "Who cares? Take it.
It's helping.
It's right, it doesn't matter." So now we have to set an alarm. We have not had to do that in years because he was always up, way before anyone else would have to get up. And then last week I saw a couple back in the office for their first follow-up after lab work and stuff, and I gave him, the husband, CBD oil because again, he was like my husband, he hadn't slept, he would wake up every day between 1 and 3. So he comes back in, I said, "How did the CBD oil do?" "The first night I took it, I slept great. I had to wake up to the alarm." And I was like, "Great." He said, "Yeah, but the next night I didn't take it because it had to be a fluke.
Yeah.
It could not be the CBD oil." "Well, what happened?" "I didn't sleep." Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "And the third night I thought the night before had to be a fluke that caused the night before fluke, so I didn't take it a third night. Didn't sleep." So then he took it every night until he saw me, which had been 7 nights,
Yep.
and he slept every single night.
Wow, that is
So
awesome.
in our house, our cats, we have 2 cats that get it. We have our dog, our boys, and
Yep.
my husband and I.
Yep.
So we are full believers. But I think the thing I run into the most in the office is with older people or, I don't want to say religious people because I love Jesus too, but people that think they're doing a drug, like they have to go to confession or something.
Yes.
I just think there is a misconception, and education is the key, and that we're not getting high from, especially the isolate that you guys are selling has 0 THC in
Exactly.
it.
And I just want to add just a side point to that. Every mammal on Earth has an endocannabinoid system that is wired to readily accept cannabinoids and use them how it needs to.
Yeah.
Not just humans. So
Right.
dogs, cats, it's great for, I've seen results with horses.
Yes.
I mean, and horses are going to need a lot more CBD
Yes.
than a person does.
Might
of
cost you
course,
some
but-
money.
Yes.
Yeah, but another patient, and a friend of mine, she goes to the lake like every weekend, and her dog gets car sick.
Mhm.
So the pills for car sickness is $5 a pill. The dog needs 2 going and 2 coming, so it's $20.
Wow.
Last time she came back from the lake, she said she just put it in her hand and let the dog lick it.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and by the way, when the dog would take the pills, he's just still foaming and like anxious and panting in the back seat. She let him lick off her hand,
Mhm.
fell asleep in the middle of her kids the whole way home.
Wow.
Did not give the anti-nausea medicine or car sickness
That's
medicine.
so cool.
It is. I get so
Awesome.
excited.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like, and she's saying, anyone that will listen, I hear people in the store talking about problems, and I'm like, I have something in my
Let me
purse
just pull this
that
out
will
here.
work for
Take
you.
this.
Yes. She's like, I keep giving it away. I can't give it away anymore. I just got to send people to you. But you know, I mean, we just. I just think it's a great thing to have, and I specifically got in my practice for 4 things, although I believe it does trillions of others.
So much more.
But anxiety, sleep, pain, and inflammation
Yes.
is what I got it for, because many times I get lab tests back and patients' CRP is off the chart, which shows inflammation, and so those are the main things that I got it for
Yeah.
in the office, which has been profound. In fact, my husband one night in the kitchen was like, is this not magic or what? Like, and this has been around, like, just, this is just amazing what it's doing. It's
Yeah.
been profound for all of our patients.
Absolutely. And you know what? Going back to all the different chronic health issues, we have a higher rate of neurodegenerative disorders than any
Yes.
other period in time, a higher rate of cancer. And there are so many different variables that contribute to those elements, of course. But again, the proof is in the pudding when you can see effects that are that profound in such a short period of time, when you can just introduce it as a supplement to your body, and it's just incredible. I also want to talk a little bit about on the inflammation. For anyone who purchases any Bloem CBD products, Braw's Thermography here in Springfield. Thermography is a more natural alternative to a mammogram rather than it being radiation invasive. There's no touch associated with it. It uses an FDA-approved thermal imaging camera to monitor inflammation levels in the body. Well, CBD being a very potent anti-inflammatory, we saw a really unique opportunity to really put our product to the test. And due to the FDA stance on CBD, although they do have a patent for the different health benefits, we have to be careful about any medical claims that we make.
Right.
So we saw a really awesome opportunity if we can actually show the anti-inflammatory properties over a period of time using thermography. Those screens can say 1,000 words that we're not able to. So for anybody who purchases at least one Bloem CBD product a month for a period of 12 months, you're able to go into Braw's Thermography here in Springfield and get a total of 4 free breast thermograms done. You would get an initial baseline screening, one done at 30 days, 90 days, and 12 months. It's about an $800 value, completely free, just for purchasing at least one CBD product a month. So it's an incredible value, and it's a really good way to help educate the community on alternative means of
Yes.
screening for different issues in the body.
We already have one patient that I know of specifically that have had reduction in fibrocystic breast and inflammation clogged in the lymph system and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
they've done great. So all you have to do is call our office and we can tell you about that. It's also on my Facebook page and a few posts. So definitely. I was going to say something else about that. We do recommend thermography here because I think it's weird that you radiate somebody to look for cancer that is caused by radiation. I'm not a rocket scientist, but
And
doesn't make sense to me.
granted, it has its use, of course,
Mhm.
but if you can, if you can have an alternative rather than going and doing a mammogram every single year just to get an idea of what's going on, I think that more people should know about it. Absolutely.
I agree. So I wanted to show your products. This is what we sell in the office. So tell us about this one.
So this is a 600 milligram tincture. It is composed of just 2 ingredients. That is MCT oil. MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides. This just refers to the molecule size of the fat. Cannabinoids are very fat soluble. So you'll hear a lot of different things about people failing a drug test whenever they partake in the other plant, not hemp. And that's because cannabinoids stay in your fat cells throughout the body. So MCT is the perfect length for a fat molecule. You think of butter, for example,
Yes.
as a long chain triglyceride.
So it stays in your body for a longer period of time. MCT oil, your body is readily able to burn it as energy. It's a really good part of a keto diet as well. That's where a lot of people have heard MCT. And MCT oil is mainly derived from coconuts or palm oil. And so CBD is able to be dissolved in MCT oil, and it acts as really a perfect delivery system since your body readily can burn it for energy. It works perfectly for CBD to be readily absorbed by the body, distributed throughout the bloodstream, and it goes exactly where it needs to go.
Yeah.
So this is a 600 milligram tincture. So there's 600 milligrams of CBD isolate in this. It is a 30 milliliter bottle, so each dropper is going to have 20 milligrams of CBD in it.
Mm-hmm. And that, if you take that, would take effect 30 to 45 minutes, 45 to 60?
Everyone is really different.
Okay.
Everyone's subjective. Everyone really, if you're going to do CBD, you really need to make sure that you are taking it for at least 20 to 30 days. Some people will notice effects that same day. Some people it takes a week. Everybody's body composition is different. Everyone is going to metabolize it differently. So yeah, we have seen different results where it 15-20 minutes up to a couple weeks. You really have to be consistent with it though. The way that CBD works, according to all the research that's out there, you really need to work it into your system to where your body uses it readily whenever
Right.
it has it built up.
Right. And so where my husband felt a difference within days, it did take me 3 to 4 weeks before I realized I wasn't as flustered with paperwork. I was sleeping a little bit better. But when someone doesn't sleep for 6 or 7 years, that's a profound wow.
Absolutely.
It took me a little bit longer. And so what I try to tell patients too, give it 25 to 30 days, and then we might need to up the dose.
Yes.
Because different conditions, different ailments, different bodies require different doses.
And from my personal experience, I've really seen CBD, there has been noticeable effects for about 9 out of 10 people. If you are a readily healthy person, good mindset, you don't really have that many issues, you may not notice anything with CBD.
Yes.
And so it's really education. People, it's really just coming about. And again, everyone is different. So I just encourage you, if you did not notice anything by taking CBD, really make sure you're consistent with it. You're taking a daily dose for at least 25 to 30 days. If you're not noticing anything at that point, I would definitely recommend to up the dose.
Right. And so the next thing, and we sell these in our office, and you don't have to be a patient to buy those. So you can come in for CBD anytime, just call our office. But then I also want to point out, because I think one patient got a little confused when I was suggesting CBD to her. I don't know what she was thinking, but our kids get the oil. We don't ask our kids to vape.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
in Charlotte's
and
Web.
no child should
Yes,
vape by any
right.
means.
And Charlotte's Web, that Charlotte was getting a tincture or an
Correct.
oil of some kind. So, so just to be clear. So Bloem also has these cartridges.
Yep.
Then that you could vape, and a patient just came in to get more CBD from me today, and she said her husband had a migraine and took some puffs off her vape, and it went right away.
Yeah, it's
And
incredible.
It is incredible. And my husband, when he walks, sometimes he'll have a back flare-up pain, and it will go away with just a few vapes.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Because the vapes hit quick.
Yes. It is really, like, for me personally, it seems to just melt my anxiety away within 10 to 15 seconds of just a puff. I've seen it help with a number of different issues, but especially with headaches and migraines, anxiety. If you're a smoker, I would strongly recommend the vape cartridge if you're trying to get off of cigarettes. Really just as a good, much more healthier alternative. And the tincture, again, if you did notice effects within 30 to 45 minutes, the vape cartridge, you really notice it almost instantaneously.
Yeah. So, and then we also sell the batteries here in the office, rechargeable batteries that just hook onto the vape.
So you got the whole set ready
We
to go?
do. We try to make it easy for people to get relief.
Absolutely.
So I think that's all my notes. Do you think there's anything we forgot that you wanted to hit on?
I think that pretty much covers
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
What I was going to say is if you do have any additional questions, just leave them for us in the post, and
Yes.
either we'll answer them on the post, or we can have another Facebook Live
Yes.
and answer specific questions. But I do think CBD oil, just like I think vitamin D and DHEA and those kinds of supplements should be in everyone's repertoire, I think CBD oil, is good for so many different things. So
If there's any, deficient endocannabinoids, CBD helps augment those naturally occurring endocannabinoids and get them to the levels that they need to be. One other thing that I want to add on, we are all about education here at Bloem. Our slogan is health, wellness, and growth, but really education. We do monthly meetings to help educate the public here in Springfield about all the benefits of CBD, as well as thermography and the free thermography program that we're doing. Our next meeting is actually going to be on May 12th this month at the Springfield Library Center from 9 to 11 a.m. So if you are a retailer who has not jumped on board with any of our products yet, if you are just a patient or anyone who just wants to learn more about them, this is strictly an educational meeting, and we would love to have anyone who's interested attend that.
Yes, and I was going to say that too. We like you guys because you're local. And one day I had to call Dennis at 9 o'clock at night to ask him about a drug interaction. He's ready, he's available, he's knowledgeable.
Yes.
So, you know, that is true.
That's all
your
about
company.
education and just being able to help people. That's what ultimately what it's all about. You know, again, going back to when you can see such profound relief in such a short period of time, that is what we're all about, is getting relief to people who would just like an all-natural alternative.
Right. Okay, well, don't forget, like my page, share this video, tell your friends to come here, find out about CBD so everyone can get benefits from it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.